Hello everybody, it's Eziomonte117 here, and today we are going to continue Ghost's discography, and today's review is going to be focusing on the album Meliora. The last album, Infestissimum, as you guys already know, was not that successful with many fans. I mean, there were plenty of people who did like it, of course, but fans of the first album were definitely displeased with the poppy result of Infestissimum. Now with their third album, Meliora, they finally went back to the more heavy metal roots of the first album, but still making it appeal to the fans of Infestissimum. So basically, it was a so-called part 2 of Opus Eponymous. It was heavy, but poppy at the same time. This time it also has much better production and better vocals and much improved playing and so forth. And what do I think of this album? I think it's pretty good. Is it their best album in my opinion? No, not really, but still I found myself liking this album a lot. Why Meliora isn't my favorite album from the band is evident in the first track, which is Spirit. The Spirit starts out with some spooky keyboards, which could have been on like a Scooby-Doo episode from the 60s, and then it goes into this rather long drum intro, and then the song starts. The song itself, I just don't really think it's that interesting. It has like this opera melody going on. It does have like a spooky chorus, but none of it's exciting. The vocals are lacking. It's not really that catchy, and it kind of reminds me a lot of the second album. This is, in my opinion, the weakest song on the album. But hey, at least the songs after this song do improve. From the Pinnacle to the Pit. Now here we have a really good song. It's not my favorite on the album, and there is a few reasons for that. But let's just get to the good stuff first. That bass intro, fantastic. It brings me back good memories of the intro to Con Clave Con Dio. Except that the sound production here is way better and the playing is just intense. Then go straight into this heavy riff, which makes you feel like an impending doom. You know, it feels like you're gonna die. And then we get to the verses, which I'm gonna go straight. I'm just gonna be straight with you guys and just say that the overall vocals and the delivery in the verses are absolutely goddamn stupid. The entire song is built off with rhyming a certain word, and this time they're rhyming the word crown. So they're using like different words that rhyme with crown in like each verse, if you know what I mean. So in one verse you hear a guy saying crown, and then in the next verse you hear a guy saying down and frown and ground, like all that stuff. They use the entire song is built around rhyming, and it just and the overall delivery of that is absolutely goddamn silly. Then we get to a chorus. The chorus is really anthemic and huge, and it's probably the best part of this. Probably the best part of this track. It's really upbeat and fun, and it definitely, and really, like I said earlier, really anthemic. But yeah, so the vocals are kind of bizarre. The song itself is rather short, and also another thing is that the song itself is also pretty repetitive. But that said, though, this is a fun, catchy track, and definitely one of the best tracks on here. Then we get to the track that I think everybody knows from Ghost, and that is with Cerise. One thing I can definitely tell you about Cerise is that this was the track that brought me back into Ghost. Because as you see, there was a period where I checked out their first album, and I didn't really feel pleased about it, and now with their second album, I kind of just stopped listening to the band altogether. But then I saw that there was a song called Cerise from the new album, which it was their new album when I first spotted Ghost again. So I checked out Cerise, and it got me really interested in the band again. And I was like, this is pretty good. And I said the song itself definitely is definitely the most structured song on here. As you get like a really long, well-made intro, which goes straight into this doomy riff. There's a lot of choruses and a lot of energetic verses. It slows down, it quickens up, has a solo, both keyboard and guitar. Everything is fully realized in this one track. And for me saying this, you might think this is my favorite song on the album, and it isn't. The only thing that stops this track that could have been the best track the band has made, which is with the vocal delivery. And the vocals here are really goddamn distracting as he's trying so hard to hit those high notes. And also that when I listen to him speak, he just sounds like a 20-year-old. It just comes off as a bit distracting in my opinion. And the lyrics are a bit preachy at times as well. But that said, the instrumentation, fantastic. The riff, the main riff in this song is so catchy and headbangable. Just, love it. The guitar solo is great. The keyboards are a great touch. I love the intro. I love the atmosphere the song brings. Cerise is a fan-goddamn-tastic track, and definitely one of the absolute highlights. Then we get a little instrumental interlude called Spöksonat, which is Ghost Sonata in English. I don't have a whole lot to say about this track, it's just like some short interlude. Which then goes straight into my personal pick for best song on this album with He Is. This one's a lot more folk rock and a lot more upbeat than the other tracks on here. The first few tracks were heavy hitters, and this one's a lot more relaxing and a lot more atmospheric. The vocals here are definitely probably the best I've heard from Tobias. He has range, he's emotional, and when he does the chorus, it doesn't come off as forced. The chorus on here is beautiful. I love the instrumentation, especially the solo. I like the satirical lyrics as even the song is really peaceful, but it actually talks about worshiping Satan. It's just a fantastic track, and it definitely comes off as some of the most beautiful songs they've ever done. Definitely my pick for best song on here. Then we get to the heaviest track the band has done up until this point, which is Mummy Dust. Many people really seem to hate this song, and I'll be honest there, I really like it. I like the heavy riffs, and the vocal delivery on here is good for what they're attempting. Like, by Ghost standards, it isn't quite great, but for what they're trying to do here, it works fine. It has a really good atmospheric chorus. I like it at least. I love the synthesizer solo on here. It's just a really interesting, fun track. It's not my favorite track, and the vocals on here is still pretty bizarre and not really that great. But I really do like the heaviness of this track, and it's just a lot of fun. Then we get to the second weakest track on this album with Majesty. It's definitely got more of a Deep Purple / Boston vibe going on, and I don't know. The song itself just drags, and the chorus itself isn't that exciting. It has a rather cool intro, as it kind of brings me back to the 60s and 70s, and I like that. But again, the vocal delivery is pretty bizarre and not really that interesting. The song itself drags quite a lot, and it never really gets anywhere. It just kind of leaves me kind of bored. And that's all I can say about Majesty. Just an uninteresting song. Which is sad because this album definitely was consistent up until this point. Then we get another instrumental interlude. Now this one's called Devil Church. There's more stuff going on in this one than the last instrumental interlude, but again, nothing too special. Then we go straight into one of the best songs on here with Absolution. It starts out really heavy and doomy, but it goes straight into this doomy verse, and the verse itself is fantastic. One of the best verses on here, and it's a lot of fun. And then it goes, and then it gets to this pre-chorus, which is really spooky and really scary. And you think the actual chorus is going to be similar to something like Mummy Dust, but then it gets so upbeat and sounding like it's an ABBA song. Like it like fucks with your brain. Though you think it's going to be like a really spooky chorus, but just like something like Ritual, for example, which has like a similar vibe. It just has like an upbeat chorus, and I just like that. So the song itself is a lot of fun. It has a great guitar solo. I like the ABBA vibes I get from it. It's just a fun track, and definitely one of the best tracks on the album. Then we get to the last track on the album with Deus in Absentia. And yeah, this track's interesting. It starts out with this some theatrics, and again, it reminds me a lot of ABBA. I really like the verses here. It's really exciting, and it has like a different approach to compared to some of the other songs on here. It has a really catchy chorus, and then after the 2-minute mark, they add in like some church choirs to say, "Hey, remember the second album and the first album?" And then after that, it just doesn't really hold up as well. Like, the church choirs really seem to drag this song out. Like, I like the first 2 minutes or so with the verses and the theatrics and that catchy as hell chorus. But after that, it just starts dragging, and especially that last part with the choir, it goes on for 2 minutes. Just like half the runtime. It just comes off as a tiny bit distracting. This song could have been the best song on the album, but the choirs and just the rest of the song just doesn't really hold up as well. It's not an awful track, but it does come up as one of the weaker tracks. So what do I think of this album? It's a pretty good album for the most part. I mean, why I don't think this album is as good as Opus Eponymous, for example, is that it's not as consistent, for one thing. Like with Opus Eponymous, I can listen to the entire album from start to finish with no skips. Well, with this album, there are plenty of songs on here I wouldn't mind skipping entirely, like Spirit, The Interludes, Majesty, and Deus in Absentia. They just come off as a tiny bit distracting and kind of ruin the flow of the album. Nothing is that this is also present on the first album. They're kind of improved here for the most part, but some of the vocal deliveries on here are really distracting and just don't really fit the song at all. I really think some songs on here go on for way longer than they have any right to. Deus in Absentia, but for the most part, everything here seems a lot more refined compared to the last two albums. The last two albums were kind of rough and not really fully realized, but with Meliora, everything seems in place. The guitar riffs are catchy, the vocals are a lot more emotional, just a tiny bit. It's a lot more varied musically for the most part. It can be heavy, it can be poppy, it can be folk. It just goes through many different types of genres, and they managed to nail that quite well. And then, as well as appealing fans of the first album and the second album, instead of the first album only appealing to heavy metal fans and the second album only appealing to pop fans. This album manages to appeal to everyone, which is what I like most about Meliora, is that it manages to be their most accessible work to date. Plus, the problems on here do kind of stop this album from being a pure masterpiece. There's some great moments on here, but for the most part, a lot of songs on here could have been cut. And I also forget that the lyrics on here haven't changed from the last two albums. It still focuses on religion and the devil and cult groups. It never really changed the lyrical content, and a lot of the lyrics on there do come up as a tiny bit boring. There's some funny moments though, like with the lyrics on "He Is," and I really like the weird lyrics of "Mummy Dust." But for the most part, the lyrics on there are just kind of boring. So yeah, that was my review of Meliora. It's a really good album, but not my favorite from the band. So yeah, that's my review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a great day onwards. Peace.